Well, the main reason that the changing student demographics of San Francisco State was chosen as a theme was because our demographics have changed so much in the past 10 years. Traditionally, San Francisco State has been a regional institution, primarily serving the local population, more of an image of a commuter-type campus. And over the last 10 years or so, we have really changed that demographic where we're now much more of a destination campus with students coming primarily from Southern California, Central Valley, other parts of the state. And so it has really made a difference in the profile of our student population. And what we found was that even though it has changed over those 10 years, the campus perception of our students was sort of left behind and was 20 years old in terms of the faculty and the staff's perceptions about the students and about the kind of support needs and instructional needs that they had. So I think it was important for us to really address that, to see how learning styles were changing for the students, as well as what their sort of co-curricular and student life needs were as the population has changed. We really did the review for this particular theme in a three-part process. The first was that we just studied the demographics, studied the data, really looked at everything there was to say about our students in terms of age and location where they came from, and ethnicity and class level and that sort of thing, to really see have there been the changes that we're perceiving. And we did find that yes, indeed, they've changed dramatically, and that's part of the learning process, is just seeing that yes, and confirming that it did actually change dramatically in such a short period of time. So that was the first stage. The second stage was we did a survey that was sent to all of our students and our faculty, and it was an online survey, so we got a pretty good return rate. We actually combined questions from this theme with questions from other themes, so it was just a single survey that went out, but we got data on perceptions about the changing demographics. So that was the second part. The third part was the focus groups that were held, again, for all the themes, but some of the questions that were asked focused on changing student demographics, changing learning styles, and perceptions about that, both from the students themselves and from the faculty, to see how those two matched up as well. The most important findings of this review were that, yes, indeed, the demographics have changed, and one of the things that is important about that is they have changed, but we also still do serve that traditional population. So it's almost like we're serving two separate populations, obviously with a lot of overlap, but we have both the younger, out-of-area, more residential students that we're serving now, and we also have the traditional students that are still our local students coming from the local high schools, the local community colleges. So that is part of the challenge that we face, is that the two populations both need to be served and both have to be addressed as we move forward. Students aren't very knowledgeable about how their learning styles have changed. They can't perceive themselves, especially in context or in comparison to other generations. It just is beyond them. They are focused on their own lives and their own classes and styles and so on. But they did respond, as we would have expected, that they spend a lot of time online, that they do a lot of texting, that they do a lot of media, and that is one of the ways that they learn as part of this generation, and that the university needs to be addressing that to be sure that we're not teaching this decade of students with teaching methodologies that might have been from earlier decades. The focus of the committee for the next stage, for the EER, will be really looking at student life. We do have a student life initiative that is underway now. not because of the WASC study, but certainly the WASC study reinforced the need for a real student life initiative that would provide more services and provide more activities and provide more of a sense of place for our students, particularly the residential population. So that's one piece that is definitely going forward in terms of the EER. We're also trying to build student learning outcomes into the co-curricular parts of our campus. I know there's a tendency to focus on what's happening in the classroom, but we all know that what also happens, especially if you ask a graduate, what was the most meaningful experience you had in your time at the university, often they'll say things like my internship or my study abroad or my volunteer opportunity. So we want to make sure that all those kind of co-curricular experiences are also assessed with student learning outcomes in mind. So that's a definite focus there. And then finally, we do want to really look at this technology piece and see, especially in the current funding situation where we're trying to maximize the outputs and the successes of our teaching, we need to be sure that if we do use more technology, do use more mediated instruction, that we're still getting the kind of learning outcomes that we want and that we would expect from our campus. So all of those three things, I think, are the things that we'll be focusing on for the EER from the educational effectiveness standpoint.